The smell hit me first. Wet earth and something else. Something sweet and wrong. Coming up through the heating vents in the middle of a Minnesota winter. My name is Alex Chen. I'm 28, and I'd been renting the basement apartment on Oakwood Street for about 6 months. I worked night shifts as an ER nurse, so having a quiet, below-ground place to sleep during the day was perfect. The landlord, Mrs. Kowalski, lived upstairs and barely made a sound. It was cheap, dark, and exactly what I needed. January in Minneapolis is brutal. We're talking negative 20 degrees most days, the kind of cold that makes your nose hairs freeze when you breathe. I loved it though. After my shift ended at 7 a.m., I'd come home, crank up the heat in my little basement unit, and sleep like the dead until 4 p.m. Then I'd have a few hours to eat, watch TV, and get ready for another 12-hour shift. It was lonely, sure, but it worked. The apartment itself was old but clean. Concrete walls painted white. Low ceiling, small windows at ground level that showed people's boots walking by on the sidewalk. The furnace was in a separate room behind a heavy metal door, and sometimes I could hear it kick on with a low rumble that shook the floor. Mrs. Kowalski had told me when I moved in, "Don't go in the furnace room. I handle all that. You just worry about staying warm." Fair enough. It was January 17th when things started feeling off. I remember because it was the day of the thaw, this weird weather thing that happens sometimes in the middle of winter, where temperatures suddenly jump up to 40 or 50 degrees for a day or two. All that snow and ice starts melting at once. The streets turn into rivers. I got home that morning and the apartment felt different. Warmer than usual, but not in a comfortable way. The air felt thick, almost humid. I figured the furnace was working overtime because of the temperature swing outside. I was exhausted from a rough shift. We'd had 3 car accidents coming back to back. So I just kicked off my shoes, changed into sweats, and collapsed into bed. That's when I smelled it for the first time. Earth. Wet dirt. Like someone had been digging in a garden and brought the smell inside. And underneath it, something sweet. Not flowers sweet. More like fruit that had been left out too long. I lifted my head off the pillow and sniffed the air. It was definitely coming through the heating vent above my bed. I told myself it was probably just the thaw. All that melting snow was probably flooding the ground around the building, and the smell was seeping in somehow. Old buildings do that. I pulled the blanket over my nose and forced myself to sleep. When I woke up around 3 p.m., the smell was stronger. I sat up in bed and immediately felt wrong. The air in the apartment was warm and damp, like a greenhouse. I could hear water dripping somewhere, a steady plink, plink, plink. I walked into the main room and saw water running down one of the concrete walls, leaving a dark trail. The small window well outside was full of melted snow and slush, higher than I'd ever seen it. "Great," I muttered. I grabbed my phone to text Mrs. Kowalski about the leak. But then I heard something else, a scraping sound. It came from behind the furnace room door, metal on concrete, slow and deliberate. Scrape, scrape. I stood there in my socks, phone in hand, staring at that heavy metal door. The sound stopped. I waited. Nothing. "Mrs. Kowalski?" I called out. Maybe she'd come down to check the furnace because of the thaw. "You down here?" No answer. The furnace kicked on with its usual rumble, and I jumped. My heart was pounding way too hard for what was probably nothing. I was tired, that's all. Night shift messes with your head. I sent Mrs. Kowalski a text about the leak, made myself some eggs, and got ready for work. But that smell wouldn't leave my nose. Even at the hospital that night, between checking vitals and starting IVs, I kept catching whiffs of it. Wet earth, rotting sweetness. I wondered if it had soaked into my clothes. The next morning, January 18th, I came home to find water pooled on my apartment floor. Not just a little leak, actual puddles spreading out from under the furnace room door. The smell was so strong now that I had to breathe through my mouth. I knocked on the door hard. "Mrs. Kowalski, we've got a serious leak down here." The metal door was cold under my knuckles. I tried the handle, locked. I called her phone. It rang upstairs. I could hear it through the ceiling. 5 rings, then voicemail. I called again. Same thing. That's when I heard the scraping again, but this time it was different. Faster. More urgent. Scrape, 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 scrape. Like something was dragging itself across the floor on the other side of that door. I backed away. "Mrs. Kowalski, if that's you, please answer me." The scraping stopped. In the silence, I heard something else. Breathing, heavy and wet, like someone with fluid in their lungs. I knew that sound from the hospital. It meant pneumonia or worse. I should have left right then. Gone upstairs, kicked down Mrs. Kowalski's door, called the police. But I had this terrible feeling in my gut, this certainty that something was very wrong and that every second mattered. I ran back to my bedroom and grabbed a screwdriver from my toolbox. The lock on the furnace room door was old and simple. It took me maybe 2 minutes to pop it. The whole time that wet breathing continued on the other side, steady and horrible. The door swung open. The furnace room was flooded. Water covered the floor at least 3 inches deep, and it was steaming in the heat. The furnace itself roared in the corner, metal sides glowing. But that's not what made me freeze. The floor was dirt, not concrete like the rest of the basement. Dirt. Dark, wet earth, like someone had dug up the concrete and exposed the ground underneath. And in that dirt, there were furrows, deep grooves like something had been dragged through the mud. They led from the far corner of the room toward the door where I stood. The smell was overwhelming now. I gagged, covering my nose and mouth with my shirt. The breathing sound was louder in here, echoing off the walls, but I couldn't see where it was coming from. Then I looked at the far corner behind the furnace. The earth there was disturbed, piled up around what looked like a hole. Not a small hole, maybe 3 feet across. And the dirt around it was wrong. It glistened in the furnace light, dark and wet, and there were pale things scattered in it. At first I thought they were roots or pieces of wood. They were bones, small ones like from animals, and pieces of fabric, rotted and mud-soaked. I saw what might have been part of a shoe, and something else, something that made my vision narrow and my legs go weak. A small, dirty hand, fingers curled, reaching up from the pile of earth. The breathing stopped. The silence was worse. I couldn't move, couldn't think. I just stared at that hand, at those small fingers, and my brain kept trying to make it make sense. A doll. It had to be a doll. Some old toy buried in the ground before the building was made. Then the fingers moved. Just a twitch. A small curl inward, but I saw it. I definitely saw it. I ran. Crashed back through the door, slipped in the water, caught myself on the wall. Behind me I heard something else, a sliding, dragging sound and a voice, high and wrong, like a child's voice played on a tape that's been left in the sun too long. Cold, it said, so cold. I made it to my apartment door, grabbed my keys and phone with shaking hands, and got out. I ran up the interior stairs to Mrs. Kowalski's floor and pounded on her door. "Mrs. Kowalski, open up, please." When the door finally opened, I almost screamed. Mrs. Kowalski stood there looking confused and annoyed, perfectly fine in her bathrobe. "Alex, what on earth?" "There's something in the basement," I gasped. "In the furnace room. You need to call the police right now." Her face changed. The annoyed look disappeared, replaced by something else. Fear, and maybe guilt. "You opened the furnace room." "There's a body," I said, "a child. Buried in the floor. I saw a No." She cut me off, her voice sharp. "No, you didn't. You've been working too hard. Night shift makes people see things." "I know what I saw." She stepped back and started to close the door. "That room stays locked, Alex. I told you that when you moved in. Some things are better left alone." I called 911 from my car, told them everything. They sent 2 officers who went down into the basement with me and Mrs. Kowalski. I watched them open the furnace room door. The floor was concrete. No dirt, no water, no hole. The furnace hummed quietly in the corner. Everything was dry and normal. "Miss Chen," one officer said gently, "have you been sleeping okay?" Mrs. Kowalski stood behind them with her arms crossed, watching me. "I told you," she said softly. "Night shift." But I know what I saw. More than that, I know what I felt and heard and smelled. When I went back to grab my things, I moved out that same day. The apartment still smelled like wet earth and rot. And there was one detail the officers didn't see, one thing I noticed on my way out. The metal door to the furnace room had scratch marks on the inside. Deep ones, like someone had been trying to claw their way out. They were fresh. The paint was scraped away in long, desperate lines. I found out later, after doing some research at the library, that the building was constructed in 1952. Before that, the lot was part of the old Oakwood Cemetery. They moved most of the bodies when they cleared it for development. Most of them. I still wonder about that hand reaching up through the dirt. About those small bones scattered in the earth. About the voice saying it was cold. And I wonder why Mrs. Kowalski looked so afraid when I told her what I'd seen. Afraid, but not surprised. There are some sounds I can't get out of my head. That wet breathing, that scraping, and worst of all, the way the scraping changed in those final moments before I ran, like whatever was making it had finally figured out how to move faster. I drive past that building sometimes on my way to work. The windows of my old basement apartment are always dark. But last week, during another January thaw, I saw something that made me take a different route from then on. Water was running down the sidewalk from the window well, dark and thick, leaving a stain on the concrete. And in that water, I swear I saw small, muddy handprints, leading away from the building, getting fainter with each one, like something had finally crawled out and walked away into the winter night. I never found out what happened to Mrs. Kowalski. The building's under new management now. But I did learn one thing that keeps me up at night. 3 children went missing in that neighborhood in 1951, right before the cemetery was cleared. They never found the bodies. I found the first drawing taped to the inside of a classroom door at 2:47 a.m., and the moment I saw it, I knew someone had been watching me. My name is Marcus Webb, I'm 34, and I've been working as a night custodian at Lincoln High School for 2 years. I took the job after my divorce. Needed something quiet where I could just put my headphones in and not think too much. The pay was decent, the work was simple, and most importantly, I was completely alone from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. No drama, no people, just me and 4 floors of empty classrooms. I actually liked the solitude. During the day, Lincoln was packed with 1,500 students, all noise and chaos, but at night, it belonged to me. I'd start on the 4th floor and work my way down, vacuuming, emptying trash, wiping down desks. I had my routine down to a science. The building was old, built in 1967, and it made sounds as it settled. Creaking pipes, the hum of fluorescent lights, the click of the heating system. While you stopped noticing. The school sat on the edge of town, surrounded by woods on 3 sides and a half-empty parking lot on the 4th. In January, with snow piled up everywhere and temperatures in the teens, it felt even more isolated. I'd park right by the back entrance, see maybe 2 other cars in the lot, the principals and the vice principals, both working late in their offices on the 1st floor before heading home around midnight. After that, I had the whole place to myself. January 22nd started like any other night. I clocked in at 10, nodded to Principal Hayes as he left his office, and took the service elevator up to the 4th floor. I had my headphones in, listening to a podcast about unsolved mysteries. I started in room 412, to the chemistry lab, wiping down the black counters and sweeping up broken glass from whatever experiment the students had done that day. That's when I noticed the smell. Cleaning chemicals, sure, I was used to that, but this was different. Underneath the bleach and soap, there was something else. Smoke. Not fire smoke, but cigarette smoke. Stale and strong, like someone had been chain smoking in the building. I pulled out my headphones and looked around. The windows were closed. No cigarette butts anywhere. I checked the hallway. Nothing. The smell faded as I moved to the next room, so I figured maybe it was drifting in from outside somehow, even though that didn't make much sense. I kept working, but I had this feeling, you know the one, like you're being watched. I kept turning around, expecting to see someone standing in the doorway, but the halls were empty, lit by those harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look flat and cold. By midnight, I'd finished the 4th floor and moved down to the 3rd. Room 307 was an English classroom, and that's where I found the first drawing. It was taped to the inside of the door, right at eye level. A piece of white paper with a pencil sketch on it. The drawing was actually pretty good, detailed and careful. It showed the hallway outside this exact classroom, the bulletin boards on the walls, the drinking fountain, the exit sign at the end of the hall. Everything was accurate. But in the middle of the hallway, the artist had drawn a figure. A man with a mop and bucket. Me? The figure's back was turned, like he was walking away. And standing in the doorway of room 307, watching him, was another figure. Tall and thin, with long arms and a face that was just a blank oval. No features at all. Just empty white space, where a face should be. I stared at that drawing for a long time. Students drew stuff all the time, left notes, doodles, graffiti. But this was different. This was specific. And it was drawn from the perspective of someone standing right where I was standing now, looking out at the hallway. I took the drawing down and stuffed it in my pocket. My hands were shaking a little, which annoyed me. It was just a creepy student drawing. Maybe some kid's idea of a joke. But then I smelled the cigarette smoke again. Stronger this time. I stepped out into the hallway and looked both ways. Empty. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. At the far end of the hall, I could see the exit sign glowing red. Everything was quiet except for the hum of the building. I went back to work, but I kept my headphones off now. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As I cleaned room 309, I kept glancing at the door, half expecting to see someone standing there. The classroom felt colder than the others, and I noticed the window was cracked open about an inch. I closed it and locked it. That's when I heard footsteps above me, on the 4th floor. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Someone walking in the hallway directly above room 309. I stopped moving and listened. The footsteps continued, steady and measured, moving from one end of the hall to the other. Then they stopped. I grabbed my radio. Hey, Principal Hayes, you still in the building? Static then. No, Marcus, I left around 11:30. Everything okay? Yeah, I just thought I heard something. Old building. Probably just the heating system. He sounded tired. Call me if you need anything. I clipped the radio back to my belt and stood there for a minute thinking. Then I walked to the stairwell and climbed back up to the 4th floor. The hallway was empty. I checked every classroom, turning on lights, looking behind doors. Nothing, no one. But in room 412, the chemistry lab where I'd started, I noticed something I'd missed before. One of the sinks was wet. Not dripping. Wet, like someone had run the water recently. I touched the faucet. It was cold. I definitely hadn't used that sink. I found the second drawing in room 408. This one was taped inside a supply closet. Same style, same careful pencil work. It showed the 4th floor hallway, but from a different angle. And again, there was the figure with the mop and bucket, me, standing outside a classroom door. And behind him, closer this time, was the tall, thin figure with no face. In this drawing, the faceless figure's long arm was reaching out, fingers stretched, almost touching the custodian's shoulder. My heart started pounding hard. I ripped the drawing down and looked at it in the fluorescent light. The detail was incredible. Whoever drew this had talent. But more than that, they'd been here, in the building, watching me, drawing me. Hello? I called out. My voice echoed down the empty hallway. This isn't funny, I know you're in here. Nothing. I pulled out my phone and called Principal Hayes again. It went to voicemail. I tried the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher told me they'd send someone by to check the building, but it might take 30 minutes. Budget cuts meant they were short-staffed. I wasn't waiting 30 minutes. I went back to the stairwell, and that's when I heard it. A door closing. Soft, but distinct. On the 2nd floor, I practically ran down the stairs. The 2nd floor hallway stretched out in front of me, identical to all the others. Lockers lining both walls. Classroom doors with small windows. That same harsh lighting. I moved quickly, checking each door, all locked. Except room 214. The door was open about 6 inches. I pushed it wider and hit the lights. It was a math classroom, desks in neat rows, whiteboard covered in equations, posters about geometry on the walls. And there on the teacher's desk was a pile of papers, drawings, maybe 20 of them, all showing me different angles, different locations in the building, me vacuuming the library, me emptying trash in the cafeteria, me standing in the basement by the boiler room. And in every single one, the faceless figure was there getting closer and closer. The final drawing in the pile made my blood go cold. It showed this room, room 214. The perspective was from the doorway looking in, and it showed me standing at the teacher's desk, looking down at a pile of drawings. Behind me, right behind me, the faceless figure stood with both arms raised. I spun around. Nothing. The doorway was empty. but the smell of cigarette smoke was overwhelming now, so thick I could barely breathe. And I heard something that made my skin crawl. A sound like someone breathing, raspy and wet, coming from the corner of the room behind the filing cabinet. I didn't think. I just ran. Out of the room, down the hallway toward the main stairs. Behind me, I heard a door slam, then another, then another. Like someone was running through the classrooms, slamming doors, following my path. I hit the first floor hallway at full speed and headed for the back exit. That's when I saw it. At the far end of the hall, standing under the red exit sign, was a figure. Tall and thin, arms too long, wearing what looked like an old janitor's uniform. And where its face should have been, there was nothing. Just a smooth, blank surface that reflected the fluorescent lights. It started walking toward me. I turned and ran the other way, toward the front entrance. My keys jangled on my belt. My breath came in short gasps. The footsteps behind me were steady and fast, not running but covering ground impossibly quick. I burst through the front doors into the freezing January night. My car was on the other side of the building, but I didn't care. I ran across the parking lot, through the snow, toward the road. I didn't stop until I reached the 24-hour gas station half a mile away. The police came. They searched the building top to bottom with Principal Hayes. They found no one. No evidence of a break-in, no drawings, not a single one. The pile in room 214 was gone. The ones I'd stuffed in my pocket were gone too, even though I knew I'd put them there. They found something else, though. In the basement, near the old boiler room, there was a storage area I'd never been in. The door was hidden behind some shelving units. Inside, they found a sleeping bag, some old food containers, and cigarette butts. Lots of them. Someone had been living down there. They also found a sketchbook. The officer showed it to me. Every page was filled with drawings of me. Hundreds of them, from every angle, every position. Some were labeled with dates going back months. Someone had been watching me, drawing me this whole time. Probably a homeless person sneaking in, the officer said, getting warm, staying out of sight. Maybe got scared when they realized you noticed them. But that didn't explain the faceless figure in the drawings. That didn't explain how all the papers I'd taken disappeared from my pocket. And it definitely didn't explain what I saw in the hallway. I quit the next day. Didn't even go back for my last paycheck, told them to mail it. I found work at a grocery store, stocking shelves during the day. I don't do night shifts anymore. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The thing I didn't tell the police. When they showed me that sketchbook, I flipped through it. Most of the drawings were of me, yes, but on the very last page there was something different. A self-portrait, I guess. The artist had drawn themselves. It showed a man sitting in the basement surrounded by cigarette butts holding a pencil. He looked thin and tired with wild hair and dark circles under his eyes. But his face was detailed, realistic. He had features, eyes, nose, mouth. And in the drawing, standing behind him, watching him draw, was the tall, thin figure with no face and arms that were too long. I drive past Lincoln High sometimes. There's a new night custodian now. I saw him once, emptying trash into the dumpster around 1 a.m. I almost stopped to warn him. Almost. But 3 weeks ago, I saw something that made me realize warnings wouldn't help. I was at the grocery store, stocking cereal on the night shift. I'd taken extra hours because I needed the money. It was 3 a.m. and the store was empty except for one customer. A tall man in a heavy coat hood up, standing at the end of the aisle. Just standing there, watching me work. I couldn't see his face in the shadow of the hood. He stood there for maybe 5 minutes, not moving, not shopping, just watching. Then he turned and walked away. As he left, his coat shifted and I saw something in his hand, a sketchbook. And on his belt, I saw something else, a set of keys. Janitorial keys, just like the ones I used to carry. I found out later that the new night custodian at Lincoln High quit after 2 weeks. Didn't give a reason, just stopped showing up. They're looking for someone new. The job posting went up yesterday. Good pay, quiet work, complete solitude from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I wonder how long the next person will last. And I wonder if anyone ever thinks to ask the important question. If someone was living in the school's basement, watching the custodian, drawing pictures, who was drawing the faceless figure? Because that sketchbook had 2 different handwriting styles. I noticed it when I flipped through. Some pages were careful and detailed. Others were frantic, scratched so hard the pencil tore through the paper. 2 different artists. The homeless man was drawing me, but someone or something else was drawing him.